When it comes to the best biosecurity and biosafety protocols to help your business thrive during these challenging times of face masks, viruses, and gloves, schools, businesses, sports arenas, hotels, and even churches are turning to America's top COVID-19 experts.
Guarding is a solution that has the ability to change the way we fight COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Socrates Garrett, Chief Operating Officer for SRS Inc., the single source solution for biosecurity protocols. SRS will ensure that your business does not shut down.
What separates SRS from other companies? We understand that if you control your environment, you control the spread of COVID-19.
SRS, the one source solution.
Good evening, Jackson. It's good to be here on Sunday afternoon. And as always, we just give thanks to God for all of the blessings that he's bestowed upon us over the years and kept us safe and given us an opportunity to stay healthy enough to fight for our community and fight for our dreams and fight for our businesses. And we're going to continue to do that. Jackson is such a beautiful city. It's got some ugly things going on, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, but it's such a beautiful city. It's the most fertile ground in the entire state of Mississippi. Ideally situated between Interstate 20 and 55, a hub of commerce. Jackson should have grown faster than Atlanta, with a major river flowing down through the middle of the city, the most fertile land, and what a head start it had. It just was failed leadership that kept Jackson from becoming what it could have become and reached its full potential. And we're struggling with those same kinds of things today. So it gives me great pleasure to have guests with us tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of these issues. A good friend of mine for a long, long time, Bishop Thomas Jenkins. Also in the studio with me, we have a business partner of mine, a good friend, and Pastor Tony Yarber. And between these two gentlemen here, including myself, we have the history, we have the wisdom, and we have the talent to be able to discuss and hopefully formulate some changes that will make a difference in our community. So BMA, Business Ministerial Alliance, a collaboration between the ministers and the business people in our community. And when these two groups come together, the community wins, period. Let me go to you, Bishop Thomas Jenkins. It's been a while. Such a privilege and an honor to be in your presence. And just to hear your thoughts on, how we got to where we are, as a people. And then hopefully we can discuss how we're going to turn some things around a little bit later on. But welcome and say hello to our listening audience.
Just want to say hello to our listening audience. It's exciting to be here with you and Brother Tony. It's always exciting to be in the midst of good company. And I'm excited to talk about the issues and how we got to where we are today. And a lot of it is a lack of vision. A lot of children have gone to school and really didn't have a vision. And because they didn't have a vision, they became derailed. A lot of kids ended up in prison. A lot of kids ended up unemployed. And there was not a whole lot of encouragement from fathers and mothers. And when I grew up in a home, father and mother who always encouraged me. My mother used to tell me every day, son, you can do whatever you want to do. There's nothing that you are not able to do. And I was crazy enough to believe that. And I grew up in the time of the 60s when people were bombing our houses and my relatives were getting killed. And I wake up in the morning and say, oh, another day to go to school and deal with people throwing stuff at me, kicking me, slapping me, whatever. But I never gave up because my mom and my dad kept saying, you can do it. And I believe we are missing that today, to really build these kids up and encourage them and say, son, daughter, you can do it. Don't give up. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, our other guest is Pastor Tony Yarborough, former mayor of the city of Jackson and our business partner of mine. And let me just tell the listening audience this before Mayor Yarborough comes on. I had an opportunity to start this business, SGE COVID Solutions. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. And we needed the best talent we could possibly find in our surrounding areas, in our city. And when I did the search, Tony Yarborough kept coming back to mind because he is the only individual that I know, African-American individual in this city or in this state, quite frankly, that has run a $350 million plus enterprise with everything that goes along with that. From every facet of a business, he has seen, he has experienced, and he has dealt with that. And we just can't let that kind of talent sit on the sidelines. So it gives me great pleasure to ask Mayor Yarborough to just chime right in and pick up where Bishop Jenkins left off and tell us how we got where we are.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mr. Garrett. And it's always a privilege to be able to sit with you. And good to see you, Pastor. Everything out?
It's great, man.
That's good news. I was sitting here and I was thinking while you were talking, that there, you know, skills are transferable. So you can transfer certain skills one place to another. But I remember I told my mama after the first day you and I had spent a significant amount of time together working on a particular project, Mr. Garrett, I said, I learned a lot from that man today. Right? I said, I learned a lot from him today. And she said, what you mean? I said, well, I said, he's just got a way of making, he's got a way of seeing the big picture and then making the big picture plain. And that makes me, when I consider how we got here, what's wrong. A lot of it includes what Pastor Jenkins has said, but it's also screams loudly to the absence of mentorship. Mm-hmm. And not only the absence of mentorship, but the willingness of folks to submit to that mentoring. All right. Mm-hmm. And so I know I might be talking a little too deep right now, but my point is that there's, in my opinion, there's been a disconnect between the passing down of certain skills, passing down of certain knowledge bases. Mm-hmm. And I can say out loud that I missed some of those things. I missed some of that. Mm-hmm. And it's not until you plug back in to somebody or somewhere or a church or any kind of environment where growth is allowed, then you see the potential start to actually come alive. And so I don't think that our men in particular have had an opportunity to really reach potential. I don't think they've had an opportunity to reach potential because they've not been plugged in to the right kind of success stories to understand how those stories became successful.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Today, Bishop, if I'm on the street and there are 5 black boys coming in one direction and 5 white boys coming in the same direction, but they're on the opposite sides of the street, and I got to choose which one am I going to walk by. At this moment, I'm choosing to walk against the 5 white boys as opposed to my own brothers.
Right.
Explain to me how I got there.
Wow.
Well, I think we look at what's happened over the last years that for some reason these young boys they seem to have the propensity to do that which is not right. And it probably has to do with where they came from, their homes and things like that. And so they have a propensity to take what you have. Unfortunately, that should not be the case. but that's the reality. A lot of these homes don't have fathers in them, and these children are raising themselves, and then they have not been taught good values.
Well, are we right to be afraid of our children? Are we at that point in time where, especially single moms, I don't know how they do it, but as a male, I find myself not saying anything to them either.
Yeah.
When they're playing the music too loud, Tony, I'm sitting at the intersection, but I don't say nothing because I don't want the altercation.
I understand.
And so is that where we are?
That's where we are. If we're talking the reality and what the truth is, that's what we are. And I'm just 42, and I'm hesitant about saying certain things. So, as a matter of fact, I was at the store before I came, and there was a lady who was in front of me. Two gentlemen walked in, they got cases of beer, and they got right in front of me. I mean, they stood in the line in front of me, and I said to myself, all right, Tony Yarber, is this all right? Is it worth you saying something? And I knew I had to be at this station, so I said, excuse me, my guy, do you mind if I get ahead of you so I can get to my next appointment? But I had to think through that thing.
Yeah.
And folks ain't got time to be trying to think through whether or not they want an altercation. In most cases, we just let people do what they do. And that's what we are, Mr. Garrett, unfortunately.
Right. Well, Bishop, in the church, what role does the church play in gaining control over our community again? And what role does leadership play, like our elected officials, our school superintendent, our educators? What role do these people play?
The role of the church needs to be where they help mentor children, starting with young men and young ladies, because over the years, I found if you take the time with people, some years ago, I started a class at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, and I took about 30 men, and we met every single Saturday at 6:30. And at the end of the year, all those guys graduated, and today all those guys are successful. They're active in church. But in those classes, we taught men how to be husbands, how to be fathers, how to be successful, how not to shoot folk, how not to steal, kill. But it was a lot of time on my part to get up every Saturday morning and be there at 6:30. I had to make a commitment as a leader to spend time with those men so that they would not grow up and end up a statistic. And so I feel like the church has a great responsibility to provide leadership and changing our communities, because if something goes on around our church, then we feel responsible. I was in a precinct meeting the other day, and they said the area, they named off our street, and they said the crime was down. I said, was great.
Right.
You know, if they said crime was up, then I would have had a problem. Churches have to understand that we have a responsibility for our community. Whatever's going in that community, if something bad is going in the community, we need to find out what's going on. We need to know from living in those communities. We have gone from house to house in our community and knocked on every door in that community to know we're here for you. If there's anything we can do to help you, we want to make certain our neighborhood gets better. If you need help cleaning your yard up, we want to do what we can to help. The church cannot stay hid inside of four walls on Sunday morning. We got to get out beyond those four walls and show people that we are concerned about them.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Tony, what's your thought on it?
Well, I just want to kind of go back to you, Bishop. Do you think that, because discipleship is work, when you say mentorship, churchy folk, we hear that as discipleship, but it's work, and it takes real time and commitment. At our church, we say if you haven't discipled somebody, you can't rebuke them. Right? Because you've not taught them anything to hold them accountable to. So I guess if I was going to ask a question, I guess my question would be, do you see the role of the church as a teacher of virtues? And have we gotten away from the teaching of virtues? And then finally, do you see not the church, but the people who make up the church a lot more self-centeredness that keeps us from that?
I think people are a lot more self-centeredness, but I believe that the leaders of the church have to keep reminding people Like, even though with this pandemic going on, we're meeting with our people through Zoom, the young people. As young people have a time when we meet with them I think it's every other week right now. Yeah. But we understand that we're not involved in their lives. That they may grow up and become a statistic. You have to take personal responsibility for these young people. Sometimes we get them and go riding with them, talk to them, put our hands on their shoulders, and say, look, young man, you can do better when they do good in school. We've gone to schools and talked to kids, and teachers have called us. My wife and I spent a whole year volunteering in a school just so we could be there with these kids to show them that there's somebody to love. We bought belts, we bought shoes, we bought neckties, but all kinds of stuff. And those kids really appreciate that kind of stuff. They really, I'm not some bishop or pastor. I'm just a human being. I'm a guy just like them.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm enjoying the conversation, but I want to interject that, for our listening audience out there, is that we just didn't get here on our own. I understand where we are, but, we're old enough, Pastor Jenkins, we're old enough to know kind of where and how we got here. And I'll take us back to just bad public policy. It was after the riots in Los Angeles and Watts, when the public policy decided that the black male could no longer be in the house. And they started paying the female welfare if the black man was gone.
Right.
If he was in the house, she couldn't get no check. And that was deliberately designed to take the black male out of the house. Now what happened was nobody could figure out how devastating that would be when you remove that black male out of that house, when you take the man out of his position as head of the household. No one could imagine what the devastation that would cause. Because as a boy growing up, my daddy only had to look at me.
Amen. Amen.
You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
And he only had to look at me, and I knew that I had to get in line. He may not have had a job, Tony, but he was still respected in that house as the man. And all of the children, and especially the girls, knew that he was in charge of that family.
Right.
And when we took him out of the house, then there was no one there to have the right authority over the children that were being raised.
Exactly.
And what we got now is a situation where there is nobody responsible or can be responsible for our children. Big mama can't do it.
Right.
Granddaddy can't do it. So they are absolutely on their own out here.
Right.
Bad public policy put them out there. And then I want you to speak to the other side of that was the criminal justice system. Then the policies created inside of the criminal justice system exacerbated the problem and took him off of the street. It took him out of the house to the street, and then you took him off the street into the prison system.
Right.
With policies like the sentencing for crack cocaine is 10 times more harsh than it was for powder cocaine.
Yeah,
right.
That kind of foolishness was designed to take our men and put them in these institutions.
Right.
The war on drugs.
The war on drugs.
Right.
And so that's kind of how we got in there. The system, the establishment had a major role.
That's right.
That they played in creating this environment that we're in now. And as I said again, they withheld the money from the lady. If the man was in the house, they put him on the street, and then they put him in the prisons, and then poverty. Poverty took over, Tony. And when poverty takes over, you will hurt somebody over $5 when you don't have anything else.
You will.
And when I look at our black boys, their number one asset is their pit bull. That's their number one asset. And so if he doesn't have any more value
to stand up to be in charge of than that, then he doesn't have any self-esteem.
Yeah.
If he don't have, and then I'm gonna quiet. If he don't have any self-esteem, then he don't value his life.
Yeah.
And then he don't value your life.
Right.
All of this was orchestrated to get us where we are. Now, y'all tell me how we gonna get out of here.
Well, let me ask this before you transition though, because I ask this as often as I can when it comes up, particularly the folks who grew up in the 40s and 50s and 60s, to be able to be a part of a segregated school system, all right, and then to have seen the transition into a desegregated school system. And I'll bring this up for a reason, because you talked about how we got here. And there's some research that will suggest that desegregation of schools was also contributed to the decline in some of the things and the values that we talk about today. So do you believe that, or do you all think that desegregation of schools has some contribution in terms of, because when I hear my folks talk about when they went to school, it's like a whole nother world from the school I went to. When I went to school to take tests, to do work and come home. My folks went to school, they talk about Big Jesse Sutton out there at West Side, and how Big Jesse was daddy at West Side, he was daddy at the store, he was that, because those community neighborhood schools, they had standards, they had values, and those were reinforced at school.
Right.
I think you're exactly right. There was a guy, Carthan, named Jesse Robinson, and he used to walk up and down the hall with a belt around his neck.
Yeah.
And everybody knew Mr. Robinson. And so if you got out of line, Mr. Robinson was coming at you with that belt. And everybody respected him, and everybody stayed in line because he represented that authority figure. Regardless of what figure they had at home, they knew if they got out of line, Mr. Robinson was going to take that belt and he was going to put it on the gluteus maximus.
Yeah.
And so I think to a large degree that hurt us to a whole lot of, because now when you move to the other school, they didn't really have that. Those kids saw that male figure. They respected that male figure. I never saw anybody trying to come at him. I never saw anybody raising their voice at him. So,
that's the kind of school I was in. They come at the adults, and the point you bring up is the point that I'm raising. That I think that schools have a role to play.
Yes.
But because of policy, that schools are now being required to fall in line with, is taking away that extra layer of support for what's happening at home and in the community, on the street. So I think that's missing. So when I leave home from a mama who expects me to do X, Y, and Z, and then there are different expectations in the schoolhouse, I think that's a contribution, because you're there 7-8 hours a day.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's deal with desegregation just a little bit more.
Okay.
Desegregation, when first we were separate, and we tried to be separate but equal. And that didn't work. We didn't have any books.
Okay.
We got books handed down from white schools. That didn't work. And then finally, civil rights activists and the struggles and our parents and ancestors were fighting to finally, we got them to integrate some schools. Mm-hmm. Now, integration put our kids under the tutorage of our adversaries and the people who were traditionally our enemies. And we wanted them to train our kids. Now, that's not a good strategy if you're trying to grow and develop the total person. And I'll give you an example, Tony. Most Black leaders are coming out of HBCUs. They're not coming out of Baylor and Texas and Mississippi State. They're coming out of HBCUs. And the reason for that, Pastor, is they are developed, the whole person is being developed.
Right.
And they get an opportunity to
to see role models and to emulate, and they are allowed to grow and develop more. So Tougaloo and Meharry probably produce more African-American doctors continuous. I'm not talking about that it stopped once integration started. They continue to produce more doctors than anywhere else. And Howard University. And Morehouse.
Exactly.
And folks like that. So my thought, and I want to hear your opinion on this education thing, on the value of HBCUs and desegregation, etc.
I think they do exactly right, Mr. Garrett. HBCUs are very, very important. They played a great role because when I thank God I went to Jackson State and graduated, and I was so glad when I left the school. I wanted to go to an all-black school. I wanted to be around people that looked like me, and I was determined that I would learn in that school. I had teachers that would encourage me. I saw teachers who looked like me that were successful, and Dr. Williams and Dr. Peoples and all those people served as great role models for us, and it was really, really interesting, and it motivated me to finish my education and to realize that when I left school, I could also become a leader.
Yeah, because you saw what you should become.
Right. Exactly.
That's critically important.
Exactly.
And if the man is not in the house, the kid can't see it.
Can't see it.
Can't see it. He can't become what he has not seen.
Mm-hmm.
He can't even believe that he can become something that he has not seen or somebody didn't tell him about.
Right.
And that's why you were saying at the beginning that your parents said you could do it.
Right.
If they don't tell you you could do it,
I would have given up.
You would have given up.
That's right. It was the words I kept hearing in my ear when I wanted to quit. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it, son. Don't give up. You can do it. And that's what kept me going.
That's what kept you going.
Yes, sir.
And that's not what our kids hear today.
They don't hear it.
What do they hear today?
They hear a lot of screaming, and they hear impatient people that really doesn't have any compassion. There's not a lot of compassion being shown to children, because sometimes a child who gets angry, and if he meets anger with anger, a person only gets more angry. And so when you see a person that can meet you with compassion, that you are able to settle that child down, and just put your arm around that young man and say, you're better than this. He's screaming, and you say, you have hope. You have destiny in you. You can be successful. You don't have to be thrown out of this school. Just study hard, and you can become somebody.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. At the moment when he is as angry as he is,
right,
you're bringing compassion and love.
Right. It always works.
They emulate what they see.
Right.
And so if they see one adult or two adults, or they see one adult interacting with an adult who may not be in the house, and all they're doing, the way that I communicate with you is screaming and hollering, then that's how that student, or that child rather, is going to communicate with his peers or with other people who sit all the time in schools. And you can see a child that, and it's not all the time, but most of the time, if that kid is cutting up, talking back, loud, when that parent comes up, most of the time, I'm going to be able to say on the inside, oh yeah, that's your mom, that's your dad. Yeah, because you can see. Because as soon as they walk in, they cussing at the little baby.
That's right.
They cussing at the little girl. And so there is no compassion, and because that's not what I see, then that's what I emulate.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And I tell you, the compassion is gone most of the time because poverty rates are so high. One of the things that happened as a result of desegregation and integration and all that stuff is that we broke down the infrastructure in the African-American community.
Yeah.
Most of our economics shifted.
Yeah.
Our folk now had the opportunity to go and buy from white folk as opposed to continue to buy from the black grocery stores. They had an opportunity now to move in a different direction. We kind of like had a captured economy because we had to support ourselves because we didn't go outside of our village.
Right.
So the village was self-containing. But then once integration came and then white folks started putting their stores in our community, you know, we always had to go out our community to get something from their store. Then they started putting their stores in our community, and it just changed the economics. And the only businesses that I can see that survive, and they're not all surviving, but the funeral home business survived.
Yeah.
And the churches survived. But I want to say to you now that I see more black folk in Pine Haven in white churches with white pastors.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Pine Haven.
Pine Lake. Yeah,
Pine
yeah.
Lake.
I know it. I hear you though. Keep talking.
Yeah, I see more black folk over there now,
Right.
Bishop,
That's right.
than I do in some of our black churches.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it means that the encroachment is there as well.
It's there.
It's there.
It's a reality.
The white preacher that's got the church here in Jackson and South Jackson, white female,
Mm-hmm.
is it Jackson Revival?
Right. That's what Robson.
She's got a pretty big following. And every time I see it, it looks like it's majority black over there. And so we just have to be cognizant of the fact that the erosion of our economy, whether it's in funeral home business, whether it's in the church business, whether it's in clothing stores, whether it's in whatever it is slowly moved away from our community. The dollar does not turn over in our community 2 times.
Right.
Every other community turns over 11 to 12 times, Tony.
Yeah.
You imagine what that means? I mean,
do.
that's 11 or 12 families that are touching that dollar,
Right. Get a piece of it.
getting a piece of it.
Yep.
And so, you know, integration hadn't served us well,
That's right.
you know, and then, and I'm gonna go on and get and say this, and then we get black leadership, Bishop.
Right.
That John Horn said they out white folk and the white folk.
That's right.
And so we get less than 2% of goods and services from the state of Mississippi.
Right.
And we're less than 10, 12% in our own city.
Yeah.
I don't know what we get at the airport authority, in the school district that are controlled by black folk in our county.
Wow. Well,
But I can just tell you this, if we don't start taking care of our own communities
yeah.
and keeping that dollar in our own community, we won't survive.
Ms. Garrett, I think right now we got the perfect person who's standing by to jump in here, getting ready to run. He's a black leader in leadership here in the state of Mississippi, in the city of Jackson, looking to step into statewide leadership as a representative of House District 66. And so we got Keith Stamps on the line. Mr. Stamps, you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening, ladies. Good evening, men. How y'all doing?
Great.
You got a great show going on. You got 2 great mentors and a great friend there, Mr. Garrett. We appreciate you for your leadership and always, Bishop Jenkins. I can't say enough about the work that you and your ministry and wife have done over the years. And my childhood friend, Mayor Pastor Apostle Yarber, I met Tony Yarber in the 5th grade playing pee-wee football.
Yeah, man. The Timberland Tide and the War Eagles.
Yeah, we've been through a lot of ups and downs, but I definitely appreciate y'all giving me a little space today to come share this great conversation you have. I totally agree that integration was probably one of the worst things that's happened to Black America in a long time.
I think it's important that we frame that, though. We don't want people to take that and run with it. We're not saying specifically that integration was bad. What we're saying was the way integration happened, the way integration was done.
Yeah, misguided integration without proper leadership that were killed off during that time period. Let folks just, run off to the hills without guidance of how to integrate.
Yeah, Keith, I agree with you, and I don't know if I agree with Tony's last statement or not, but I think now, currently, our brightest children and our brightest families have left our cities. They moved to Madison and they sent their kids to other schools. And when you take the talented 10th out of the community, was that Booker T. Jones that talked about the talented 10th?
That was W.E.B.
W. Du Bois, somebody talked about it. When you remove the talented 10th out of your community, there is no leadership and no role models in the community.
Yeah, man.
Dekeitha. So,
right.
you know, what are we going to do? Dekeitha, you're a leader. You're out there fighting hard every day. What are we going to do to turn this around?
Well, we have to control the land that we control and push it to the degree that we can to even be respected in the conversation of upper level leadership. And that's just where we are right now. So we have to, the area that we control, that we are able to build a base in, we need to do that. And one of the proposals is that Mississippi businesses, specifically black businesses, use the state of Mississippi to do business in other countries that's controlled by black people. We can do import and export trade. We can do commodities trading and open up new economies for the state of Mississippi and for businesses that we have. Because for far too long, you know, we definitely haven't been getting what I feel we deserve. We didn't get what we deserve. You know, when Mayor Yarber was in office, we were about 43% minority participation, Mr. Yarber. And
Yes, sir.
now we're down to 12%. That's embarrassing. You know, and I'm a part of the government that has produced that work product, and I'm definitely, you know, not happy with that. But it's where we are.
So how does that happen, Councilman? Because I think that when people hear us, they see us, and I hear this, you hear this all the time. When Dale Danks was the mayor, when Kane Ditto was the mayor, black folks could do this and do that. When black folks got in charge, the city just went to Hades. So how does that happen under black leadership?
Well, how that happens is, you know, you vote against your interest, and you know, you don't get respected because you don't vote for your own interests and build your own economy forward. And so we got to work through that. We got to work beyond that. There's several factors that cause it. But the main part is about what Mr. Garrett talked about the talented 10th leaving the community. That talented 10th is what stabilizes the economy, stabilizes the voting base, stabilizing everything. And the electorate becomes emotional. And so when your electorate becomes emotional versus more rooted, then you produce a different work product when it comes to leadership in your community.
You're so right. You know, in the church, Bishop, in business, we had an 80-20 rule that, you know, we're going to get 80% of our business from 20% of our population, our clients. I don't know about you. How does it work in the church?
It works very, very similar.
So if that 20% leaves,
You're in trouble.
Wow.
You're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Now they hit home for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense for somebody. Even if you're not a business person, if all you do is go to church, work, and Walmart, you got that because you're likely one of the part of the 20%.
That's right.
And you know that if you and the 5 other ladies leave that church, it's over with. It's over. I don't care how good the pastor is. It's over.
But we got some opportunities, gentlemen. We got some serious opportunities, gentlemen, that we can capitalize on. As far as growth, the Highway 80 and definitely the Highway 18 corridor, which you know is right adjacent to this district that we're running for, the redevelopment of that is a major opportunity for us. You know, when you look at building new subdivisions, just take 2 very contrasting subdivisions that are in that area. The back end of Brook Hollow, which you're familiar with, Mayor Yarber, and then on the other side, 50 yards through the woods, you got Owens and Chapman's estates. So you got some houses that are valued at $10,000 and $15,000, 50 yards away from houses that are valued at $500,000 and $600,000.
Yes, sir.
So there's an economy there that can be built if we coalesce the right leadership, put the right focus in this corridor. We can grow new subdivisions down Highway 18 and build an economy. And it's proven that black folks will buy these houses over there. We just have to grow the area and put the proper incentives in place. And that's what we need state level leadership for, is to look at the future growth for Hinds County, and specifically in areas where in Jackson where we can grow the city.
Sounds like your focus as representative stamps would be something that business folks should be pleased with.
Oh, that most definitely. Just like recently when we had to override the mayor's veto when he was stripping $1.6 million from the Grand Gulf Fund, which is for Highway 18. Councilman Foote was the one that broke the vote so we can override the veto, because he understands that if we don't develop down Highway 18 and we allow for Byram to annex over to Highway 18 and Clinton to annex over to Highway 18, then it's going to put a noose around Jackson, and the economic recovery for Jackson will be solely on Wards 1 and Ward 7. If we don't build new subdivisions and grow this city western, then the economic recovery for Jackson are going to be really leveraged on 2 wards. So we must grow this city out to the west, and we must do it in a way that is advantageous for the city and is advantageous for our surrounding cities, that we can all create a shared economy to move forward.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to get the bishop in over here and fuss at him a little bit. Our churches are not utilizing our Black businesses. Bishop, we build a lot of buildings. We do a lot of rehab work. We do a lot of parking lots. Our churches are utilizing white contractors, and there is not one Black contractor that has risen to a significant status because of the number of churches that we have in our community. Yeah. And does that mean that our pastors, our leadership there don't get it, don't understand their role?
I think that they really need to, pastors need to take the role and make certain that we give business to Black businesses. That's the only way we can build a city, because as a Black business does well, Black business can hire other Black people, and we can get people out of poverty and get them to another level. I think it's ridiculous that people don't get Black contractors to do work. You know, we try to make certain that we try to employ our own people, right, at our church. We try to make certain that that's what we're doing, because that's how we empower people. Right. I tell folk that we don't want to raise up a welfare kind of situation. If a person is in business, if you cleaning carpets, and you come over here and clean our carpet. If you're painting, you come over here and paint. You know, right. That's what we're doing as we speak right now, to make certain that we do that. And we need to get that message out. We may need to come together and have some kind of meeting with all churches, Black churches, and say, look, this is what we need to do the way forward. We need to do this way forward. Make certain that you give business to our Black contractors, our Black. I'm for that 100%.
Right, and that's turning that dollar over again. And turning it over again. Sir. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because we're going to ask you to play a leadership role in bringing our pastors together, our bishops together, so that we can have this economic summit.
Yes, sir.
You know, you can't, I say all the time, you know, I pay in excess of $100,000 a year in property taxes. Yes. I feel like that's taxation without representation. Right. I don't think I'm getting any business back from where I'm putting all these taxes in. Right. And so that's a problem. Right. And I know Black businesses feel that way. Right. And so if I'm putting 10% of my tithe money in my church, you know, I know I want to go to heaven. That's right. But I gotta get heaven, a little heaven here. That's right. So the church should at least have a database of every business person that's a member of that church. That's right. And the leadership should make sure that they're working. That's right. That they are consciously identifying work that they can get to them. Yes, sir. It hurts my heart when I see white contractors. I don't have any hatred. I'm not no racist. It just hurts my heart when I see white contractors fixing our streets and our water lines and our sewer lines and repairing our roofs. It just bothers me when I drive down through there and see that. And we got to stop that. You got to stop it, sir. I agree with you 100%. And by the way,
Your company does great work. I saw what you did across the street from me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah,
it's a professional job.
That was a difficult project.
I know, but you did a great job, sir.
Thank you.
It
Thank
looks
you.
good to this day.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to give a shout out to Jackson Public Schools because we have a little over $2 million in contract with them currently because we were allowed to bid, and we bid for our work. We bid against white boys, and it's a head-up game. And we were able to outbid them, and we were able to bond that kind of work, Tony. So, we can bond $10, $15 million worth of projects.
Right.
And we were working there. And but sometimes I can be the low bid on projects and still not get the award in our own community.
That's not good.
Man.
I think, but whether it's church and Councilman Stamps, you can even jump back in this if you want to. Whether it's church or whether it's government leadership matters. And it matters when the leaders set the tone. When Councilman Stamps talked about that 43-45% minority participation that we had, we were intentional about that. And so when we said, look, emergency projects, those $50,000 projects, under $50,000 projects, we were very intentional in saying, you're going to call folk who have their businesses in Jackson first. You're going to call folks who look like the majority population in Jackson first. And we could do that.
Right.
We could do that with those emergency funds because of how the law was set up, but you have to be intentional in doing that. And so when I say leadership matters, I mean leadership matters, the way that Apostle Jenkins talked about utilizing folks who are actually in the church. And so, Councilman, if you wanted to, because I know you're big on homegrown businesses, homegrown leadership, we got to grow our own. If you want to jump in there on that, that would be great.
Well, I'm all for slicing things so that you can, first off, Mr. Garrett talked about being able to bond things. We got to unpackage some of the things we put out because there's only a few businesses in the state who can, bond out something as big as we bundle them sometimes. Sometimes you got to break projects down and put them out in phases so that folks can participate, but you got to move in those directions from a point of understanding. And that's what we want to do. We want to continue to focus on building the economy and growing our businesses. And there's a unique opportunity that's happening right now with a deal called the Africa 2063 plan. And it's going to take members of the African diaspora to help rebuild Africa. And they're reaching out to Black leaders around the world to bring in talent because they've not only lost a talented 10th, they've lost a talented 80th. And they need talent. And we got skill sets that can open up new economies the state of Mississippi and specifically Black businesses here in Mississippi to be able to partner with other countries to do business where the traditional delegations of Mississippians can unlock those economies. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow Mississippi's economy into new spaces around the globe so we can bring resources home. But more importantly, or also adjacent to that, to do more business online and to get our businesses into more technology so that we can get and not leave our businesses behind in types of industries that will be lost to automation in a few years. We see what's happening across the world, and the coronavirus has basically sped up automation. Just like the bishop would tell you, Mr. Pastor Yarber, that church will never be the same, and churches who are stuck in the more traditional roles are probably going to wither away, and ones who are able to agile enough to shift and grow with our changing times are going to grow. And the same thing is going to happen with our businesses. We're at a point where it's already slated that before coronavirus, Black America will have zero wealth by 2060. Think about that. Zero wealth. So what we're saying is there must be intentional actions to stop that and to save these communities from going underneath and drowning.
Now, Councilman, I'm going to let you go after this because I know you didn't really wait around this long not to be able to talk about your race.
All right. Right. Well, as far as this race is concerned, we're trying to take our body of work. When we were in junior high, I got introduced to an organization called Youth Legislature. And that allowed us to go to the Capitol and do the youth legislative portion for about 5 years straight. And that really kind of lit my fire when it comes to being a legislator. And when I retired, came back here to Jackson, I started the legislation process at the city level. And now we have an opportunity to take that lifetime of work and that body of experience to the state, and we want to push hard. You know, we don't pledge to be the best person in the world, but we're pledging to work harder than anybody else. And that's what we've always tried our best to do, is to work hard for the folks that represent us. So we're asking folks in South Jackson, Byram, Terry, Utica, rural portion of Raymond, support us. Give us your prayers, give us your support, and your vote on September 22nd, because we're going to fight and push to grow our economy in our little small neck of the woods so that we can shield ourselves from what we see is going to happen. It's going to be an all-out shift on our businesses and our churches and everything else, and we're going to have to shift with it or lose every gain that we've had. We were already on a skid to losing the gains that we've had before, and now we're going to fight aggressively to grow our side of Hinds County, because these towns can grow as long as we don't fight against each other. We have to do what Byram, Pearl, and Flo would do. They look at their interests and coalesce together, and we want to do the same thing with South Jackson specifically, then also Byram and Terry and Utica as well.
Well, thank you, Councilman Stamps, and good luck to you in your race. Appreciate you being on today, and look forward to having you back.
Yes, sir. Anytime. And I appreciate the opportunity, and you have a great conversation every week. So hats off to y'all for even taking the time out to help stabilize 90.1, because folks who have a position in our community should be advertising with Black media so that we can even have these mediums to talk to 100,000 watts. That's not a normal thing around the country, is being able to go to a radio station. It's take folks like y'all reinvesting into our media outlets so that we can even have these things to talk to people and educate people on things. So thank you very much for your reinvestment into our community, Mr. Garrett and Mr. Yarber and Bishop.
Thank you, man. Be safe.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Bishop, we're getting close to end our program. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. We realize you could have been anywhere else. And I want to just press the fact that we need your leadership.
Yes, sir. You got it.
We need that.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
We're going to have to bring our leaders together, and we're going to have a consensus about what's good and what's best for our communities.
Right.
And we're going to have to get in the room, and we're going to have to hammer that out, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to come up with strategies that our leaders can implement. We can't expect them to have all the answers.
Right.
I mean, my goodness, how is a 35-year-old man going to have the answers when a 75-year-old man say he doesn't have it?
Right. And
so it's going to collectively, we're going to have to talk about what's good for our communities, what strategies we need to put in place, and to make this thing go. And we can't do it without you, Bishop.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to work with you, Mr. Garrett. And I want to just commend you. I've watched you over the years. You have been a very good businessman. You've gotten some things going. I met you back in the 70s. I know you're not that old, but I've watched God bless your business, and we need your wisdom. Right. And we will listen. And, as a pastor, I learned a long time ago. I don't know everything. Right. I like to get myself close to people like you who have proven success. Right. You have proven success. You don't have to talk it. Right. You have proven success. Right. No matter what has gone down, you've kept it going. And so we need you, and you can count on me to work with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God has blessed my work. He blessed and people say to me sometimes, well, God bless you. And I said, I correct them. I say, he blessed my work. Mm. Because if I didn't do the work,
you did a lot of hard work, sir.
I wouldn't get the blessing. Tony, the parable that talks about the talents that he gave to people. Mm-hmm. So God was angry when he came back with the man that had one that buried it. He took it from him and didn't leave him nothing.
No work.
He didn't do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think God will bless your work.
Amen.
I appreciate your vote of confidence. Tell us a little bit, Tony, about what you're involved in now with us and COVID-19, this pandemic out here, and what you're seeing and how we're building this organization. And I know we got Dr. Buckley on with us now. and tell our listening audience a little bit about his skills.
Yeah, well, the big picture is here's another minority Black Jackson-based business that has the capacity to be able to do everything that you're seeing on the internet when it comes to COVID-19. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
Right.
The other day, I saw a video from China where there's a little boy was going to school, and they showed what we call protocols. Where the little boy started out when he first got there, he had a mask on. He takes his mask off, throws it in the garbage. He goes from there to a temperature gauge machine that takes his temperature. Once it takes his temperature, if he passes that, he goes on to the next step. They decontaminate him. They spray him down with a dry mist. And then he goes from there to putting hand sanitizer on his hand and putting a new mask on before he goes in school. And so that's what's happening in China. And SGE COVID-19 Solutions has the capacity to do this in America, in Jackson, in Wilkinson County, all over the state of Mississippi. But that's not it. The other part is the technical folks that we've got on board. What I like to call the subject matter experts. We've got one of the top virologists. As a matter of fact, I was online today looking at some of the work that Dr. Cedric Buckley, has published. I was looking at articles that he's featured prominently in, whether it's working at Jackson State or working at other universities. He's right here. He touches the work that we do every day. And so when we say that we have the capacity to come in and do specific kinds of stuff, not only are we doing what everybody else is doing, we're also doing what they're not doing. We're testing buildings. We can come inside WMPR right now and swab that doorknob. We're going to swab this keyboard. We're going to swab that entrance door. We're going to swab everything that we know people touch a lot. And in 90 minutes, Bishop, we're going to be able to tell you if you got COVID present in that facility.
Wow.
And then after we do that, our team comes together like we'll do tomorrow. We'll go out in the field in the morning, then we'll come back together late part of tomorrow morning, and we're going to put protocols together for the city of Jackson. We're going to put protocols together for about 17 buildings, and those protocols will be able to help people to know that they are COVID controlled. But it starts with the testing. So it's not just when some the president talks about testing people. It's also important to test these buildings because you got that mask on. I put mine on. If I've got COVID, I'm breathing. I'm breathing in this mask. I got this beard. At some point, I'm gonna touch it. I come in here. I touch all on stuff. I touched this napkin. I handed it to Mr. Garrett. He got it. Looked at it. So I could have very easily passed that on. But what we're doing is we're building out the best job we can, Mr. Garrett. We're building a company that not only has capacity, but also has the expertise. And so we're looking forward to being able to come test buildings, whether it's schools. We want to be a part of that process on you getting folks back to school safely, back to churches safely, and back to your business safely.
That's great.
Thank you. Listening audience, it's serious out here. SGE COVID is capable of testing your buildings and establishing protocols to keep you safe from this virus, to mitigate this virus. It's a very, very serious thing. I want to thank the Natchez School Board District, Philip West and Superintendent Butcher that invited us down there to make a presentation. I want to thank the Hattiesburg School System, the superintendent down there that asked us to come down and make a presentation. And Tony, I know you were in Carson City at the schools system down there. St. Thomasville in North Carolina invited us over to put our protocols in place. And I want to give a special shout out and a thank you to Councilman Kenny Stokes, who had a press conference with us, introduce our company to the citizens of Jackson and to the administration, and trying to get us to test these buildings. And to that end, we have now met with Mayor Lumumba, and he has been good enough to visit with us. And he sent over Friday a list of all of his buildings with square footage, etc., and is going to give us an opportunity to present our protocols and how we would keep that building safe.
Great.
So I thank the mayor for doing that, and I'm looking forward to getting our proposal back to him midweek.
Also, the Hinds County Board of Supervisors, the sheriff, Hinds County Sheriff, for considering us being a part of their process as well.
Right.
And so jails gotta have it.
Right. We talked to the commissioner, corrections, Friday night, and they have asked us to come and present our protocols there. So they have several isolation area, quarantine areas for prisoners. So people, give us a call. SGE COVID Solutions, 1-800-290-9081. Give us a call, and we'll be happy to come out and test your facility and provide you with protocols to try and keep you safe. I want to thank y'all for being our guest today, Bishop.
God bless you. Thank you for inviting us.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Always, and I'll see you early Monday morning.
See you in the morning, man.
Okay, then. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
When it comes to the best biosecurity and biosafety protocols to help your business thrive during these challenging times of face masks, viruses, and gloves, schools, businesses, sports arenas, hotels, and even churches are turning to America's top COVID-19 experts.
Providing is a solution that has the ability to change the way we fight COVID-19.
Hi, I'm Socrates Garrett, Chief Operating Officer for SRS Inc., the single source solution for biosecurity protocols. SRS will ensure that your business does not shut down.
What separates SRS from other companies? We understand that if you control your environment, you control the spread of COVID-19.
SRS, the one source solution.
Welcome to We Believe TV. We are inspired by bold and spirited believers ready to adopt an innovative approach for speaking the word so that others' faith might grow from hearing the word, which gives rise to hope. Watch your church worship service live, our collection of faith-based programming, as well as original content, right here on We Believe TV. How and when you want, anytime and anywhere you want. Sign up now.
WeBelieve.tv.